From the Owens Student Media Center and heard on Outcast OCCR, Owens Community College Radio, it's Dennis Hobson and Dion Thompson. Dennis and Dion, your hosts for The Double D Show. The Double D Show. Along with co-host Eben Corin. The Double D Show. The Double D Show.
Welcome to The Double D Show. We're here as always with the man of the hour,
Dennis Hobson. I don't know about the man of the hour. I don't know about that.
And I'm Dion Thompson, and there's our local millennial, as we like to call him, Evan, the guy that has all the stats. So when you come on here, you better make sure your stuff is tight. But I'm very happy to have a great guest today, buddy, Todd Williams. It's kind of crazy. I know him from the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world. He owns Monroe Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But this is what I didn't know until I did a little digging. Todd actually ran track at the University of Tennessee. He's a 6-time high school state champion. He's an 8-time first-team All-American. Get that, 8 times, in track and field. He was in 2 Olympics. What was that, 92?
92 in Barcelona, 96 Atlanta.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want to take I'm going to let you do some talking, but I always got to get my part in first. But you're part of so many things. You got the Run Safer going on, and just talk a little bit about yourself. I know it's hard to, because my buddy hates when I put him on blast, but I'm sitting between like 2 guys who I'm
not an Olympian.
I've never been at you guys' level, so I feel honored. So Todd, what's going on,
I think, yesterday was actually Olympian Day, and a couple of interviews, and now that I'm almost 50 years old, people ask, what did it take to make 2 Olympic teams? And I'm like, it's pretty easy, hard work and sacrifice. And when I was going through the interview, I brought out all my training logs and my work logs, and I looked and I added up all the miles that I put in from 1983 until 2002 when I retired. And then those logs, I had 50,000 miles. So you got to train extremely hard. I was blessed and fortunate to be able to compete with the best athletes in the world and make 2 Olympic teams. But when I look back on it, I think it wasn't really the competing, it was meeting all the great people and the experiences and memories that I got to have. When I think about 1992 in Barcelona, I got to go to the gold medal game in basketball. I was sitting in the front row with Larry Bird right in front of me, Magic Johnson, Karl Malone, and I got to see it right there, the best team of all time. And it gives me chills thinking about it right now, right? So I think those are the type of things when I look back now that I'm an old Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, that I got to keep, I still have to continue to work my butt off and get up every day and have big goals. But so far, I've been pretty blessed and happy to be where I'm at right now.
You know what? I got a question for you, Todd. I mean, you talk about hard work. First of all, being an Olympian. I mean, that's big time. I mean, that's a lot of people might not think about it, but if you can get all the way to the Olympics, that's really saying something. You talked about the hard work. What does hard work look like? I mean, when you talk about hard work, what does that look like for like one of your younger kids just wanting to be something?
As Dion mentioned, I think when I think back, Monroe High School, Monroe, Michigan, growing up, it's a combination of things, right? It's your parents putting you in a good spot. It's you surrounding yourself with good people. It's trying to make smart decisions. Not that I made all smart decisions, but I tried my best to. But then it's getting the guidance along with that work ethic. So my first football coach said, you're doing pretty good in football, but you're really doing well in the conditioning. Why don't you try track? And that happened in 9th grade. And the next thing you know, he put the plan in front of me, and it's up to me, of course, to get up every day and accomplish the plan, but I had those people behind me pushing me. And then my high school coach introduced me to my college coach, which is Doug Brown, who was a 4-time Olympian. And when he came up from University of Tennessee, he sat at my dining room table and he's recruiting me, and he said, if you can continue to work hard and make smart choices, I think you can make the Olympic team. And I think you can lead University of Tennessee to a national championship, which are huge goals. And for a huge, for a kid that's 18, to hear those things, it's like, man, I got to just keep going, keep moving forward. And then just things happen. So like I said, now that I can look back on my career, a lot of great accomplishments, but when you're in it, you're just waking up every single day and you look at your log or you look at your plan and you smash it. And then you just keep going.
I think that's great advice. And I've said this before. I think when you look at Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan, we have some of the greatest athletes in the world here in this little quadrant. And I think it's because a lot of us are blue-collar guys. We know hard work. It's often said, you come from this part, I don't care wherever you go, wherever you play, whatever you do, guys get to the top of what their profession is. It's kind of funny. There's going to be a guy that's going to hit us up on Facebook, who's going to watch it. His name is Terry Crosby. He's a University of Tennessee guy. And once he knows, I mean, man, the accomplishments are outstanding. Like you said, when you're going through it, you know, I know it's tough. I always talk about what Dennis has done, and, you know, just sitting between you guys, man, I feel really honored because the younger people need to hear it, because I think sometimes people think because I come from Toledo, because I come from Monroe, I can't make it.
Right. Well, that's, you know, I was gone for 30 years, so I left, you know, I went to Knoxville, University of Tennessee. I lived there till 2003. Then I moved down to Florida, in Jacksonville, Florida, Ponte Vedra, and lived down there until last year. And when I chose to move back home to Monroe, started my own business, and I do hear a lot of that junk talk, I call it. You know, I'm Monroe, you know, you're from Monroe, you never make it. You're from Monroe, it's blah, blah. I'm like, that's your mindset. You know, I don't care where you're from, what side of town you're from. If you have good people around you, make smart choices, and you work really, really hard. Yeah, I made it to the Olympics, but I think everybody has their own gold medal. That's the thing I say when I talk to kids at camps. Well, you know, Magic, or, you know, when I was coming through, you look at the top athletes, and, you know, I'm throwing basketball out there, but at the end of the day, every kid that puts on a pair of running shoes, every kid that grabs a basketball, every kid that grabs a football, they can still maximize their abilities. And I think a lot of kids don't do that, and then what do? They start making bad choices. So the more positive role models in each community that all of us can have, and get off the Facebook and all the negative stuff, get off all this negative Twitter and all this stuff, throw that phone in the garbage and get outside and start working hard. That's what people need to do.
I agree.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming back and starting something and reaching out, wanting to mentor, you know, the younger group, because like you said, you touched on it earlier. You had great people in your corner. You know, you talked about the hard work, but you had great people in your corner. And I think that's very important, because Deion, you, myself, again, when I go to speak to a lot of different people, I say the same things. I had great people in my corner, and they kind of kept me in the right in line. They kept me going in the right direction. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the hard work.
You know what's funny though, when you say that, I think people think great people means they're going to agree with everything you say and do. No, you need somebody to say,
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you.
And that's what I think we had. That's
for
the
sure.
commonality. But I think a lot of times, especially in today's world, you know, everybody wants to hear how great they are. And if you say something just to correct them, they think it's hating. No, I want to help you become your best.
I posted some on Facebook. I had a parent, you know, now we're transitioning into the summer, and the kids are going off from their senior year to their first college experience in athletics. And a parent asked me, what's the difference between high school athletics and collegiate athletics? And I said, well, I'm going to give you a story. I said, I went from being the number one runner, number one or two. I'm going to say I was number one, but there's a kid that was better than me. But I was number one. All right, I'm still mad about it 32 years later. But one or two in the country in 1987. Then I went to University of Tennessee, and I went to NCAA championships as a freshman. I was the number one freshman in the United States as a collegiate athlete. Then I was second in the SEC in indoor. I was second in the SEC in cross country. I was second in the SEC in the 10,000 meter. So as a freshman, young kid coming in. Coach pulls me into the office, and he looks at me and he says, you know, you accomplished a lot this year. I said, yep. He goes, you know what? If you don't step it up, there's another kid that's going to take that scholarship. And I was like, I thought I did really good. But what the point is, don't get complacent. Go home in the summer and work your butt off. Don't think you're something that you're not, and just keep working and keep grinding.
That's what happens with recruiting. A lot of people don't understand that. We talked about it on one of our last shows. Like, soon as you sign and commit, they're already trying to get somebody to take your job.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, people have to understand that. You know, it's great. You get recruited, all the letters. Hey, you're the greatest.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
Now, when you were coming out of Monroe, were you highly recruited? Did you have a lot of people after you?
Yeah, I mean, the top five, I narrowed it down to Tennessee, Nebraska, Michigan, LSU, and Wisconsin. So I took my recruiting trips. I was fortunate again to work extremely hard. I got to go to Warsaw, Poland, and compete at the World Junior Championships. So out of the whole country in 1987, I would have been, there was two. It was me and Mark Davis from San Diego High, Balboa High.
One thing in track too, which I think is different from a lot of sports, your time is your time. So it's not, you know, some people say, oh, it's political, you're getting recruited because they like, you know, your time says who you are. That's quantifiable. We can see that.
100%. And when I came up in Monroe, you know, not that many people ran, right? It wasn't a big sport. So I swam as a kid, I wrestled as a kid, then I went into basketball, baseball, football. And I was fortunate in basketball. I love basketball. I thought, like, I wanted to be like a Steve Alford, Scotty Skiles type player. Like, hustle and defense. And so my dad connected me to AAU, and then I got to meet some great players. And I was on teams that I never played at all, but Mark Macon, Anderson Hunt, a lot of these top, they would go on to the NBA. And we were at Monroe Junior High School 5-on-5, and I was part of that AAU team.
Wow.
So I got to see excellence on the court. But then that's the reason when I chose, and my dad was hard on me, so when I chose running, it was me versus that clock, and I was blessed with a lot of talent with work ethic, and then I started going, I can get faster and faster and faster, and landed me in some pretty good spots.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, hey, looking at this resume that Deion read off, hey, you've done some amazing, great things.
Yeah, and again, when I was in it, I would have never, and even now, I think every day that I wake up, Monroe Jiu-Jitsu is my passion now. Run Safer is my passion. So I constantly try to get better and never get complacent, never look back what I did. I'm happy that I was able to accomplish those things, but you can't get complacent or somebody will try to take you down.
So what I'm seeing here is kind of the common denominator is a remarkable amount of self-discipline. So, and you said you work with a lot of younger kids. How do you try and teach them what self-discipline really means?
It's tough. I have two daughters. I have a 21 and 18, and the sign of the times that we're in with these phones and instant gratification, and I want it yesterday with minimal work. It's tough to talk to kids like that because a lot of times the parents don't want to hear the truth. When you say, hey, Bobby's not working hard enough to improve. The reason you're not getting a blue belt in jiu-jitsu is because you only show up once a month. Don't tell me that you're not any good. You got to be here and you got to work. So it's a difficult task, but I'm trying my best to make it happen.
Absolutely. If you guys want to join our conversation, check us out on Facebook at this Owens Student Media Center page, or tweet at us on Twitter at OwensOCCR.
What do today's modern manufacturing jobs look like?
Innovative.
High tech.
And what does it take to land STEM jobs like these? A degree from Owens. Your success starts here. Owens Community College.
Chris Domine is a husband and a father. Chris is an athlete. Chris is even an Ironman. But 10 years ago, Chris was facing a very different story because his kidneys were failing.
Basically, the doctor said, if you don't get a kidney transplant and if you don't do dialysis, you are going to die.
Fortunately, Chris received a second chance at life, made possible by an organ donor.
Your well-being changes, from loss of hope to better times ahead.
More than 100 million people in America are registered organ, eye, and tissue donors. People of every age and ethnicity, because they believe it's the right thing to do. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov.
You recycle, right?
But let's face it, recycling's confusing. We have a solution.
Standardized labels, they help people recycle more, and they help people recycle right. Let's recycle across America, and let's recycle right.
To learn more, visit letsrecycleright.org.
How you define success is really up to you.
For me, it's helping to make the world run.
That's one way.
Or making a living as an artist.
And that's another.
Hiring someone out of college with the right skill set.
Graduating, and without all that college debt.
You're on a roll.
Living my dreams.
Now that's success. Your success starts here. Owens Community College.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Double D Show. We're joined today by Todd Williams, owner of Monroe Jiu-Jitsu. Todd, I wanted to ask you, going back to your experience in the Olympics, the first games you were in was in 1992, and that would have put you at about 22, 23 years old, right?
Right.
So as a young kid, hey, I don't want to lock you up with the age. I don't think anyone's going to do the math on it. I hope not. But so you're about the same age as I am right now. I'm 22 years old, and I can't imagine being on that big of a stage. So if you could just kind of illustrate what that's like as such a young kid, I have to imagine some of those earlier championships you competed in helped make you more comfortable with that type of a situation.
I think about then 1992 and heading into that, like 1990, 1991. I was a senior at University of Tennessee in 1991, and I'll never forget. I went to Eugene, Oregon, University of Oregon National Championships, and I finished second. And there were some contracts, and the way running works, you can get a professional contract, and Nike will bid for, you're negotiating, like, we're going to put the product on, you're going to travel the world, you're going to compete, you're going to highlight our brand.
Yeah.
Well, they chose this one kid Shannon Butler in front of me from Montana State, and I ended up going. Nike chose him, and I went to Adidas, and so that lit a fire in me. I'm like, I'm going to show them they chose the wrong guy. So I graduated from UT, started training really hard, and the focus was making the Olympic team in '92. But going into the Olympic trials in New Orleans, I was seeded 10th. Going, I wasn't supposed to make the team, wasn't supposed to be there. Everything's new. Train, going under the radar, and I win the Olympic trials. So I was #1 American heading into Barcelona. Then you fly over to Europe. You're running in Paris. You're running in Oslo. You're running in Stuttgart. You're running in all these beautiful, beautiful places. Stockholm, and then it's time to go into the the Olympic Village. Which is amazing. At 23 years old, you're getting in there, and you're all pumped up. And the focus there was, hey, nobody thought I was going to make the final. There was the top 36 runners in the world. I wasn't chosen to make the final, because you have to run a semifinal of a 6.2 mile race to make the final. And so then I was the #1 American. I finished 3rd in my heat, made the final, then I finished top 10 in the world. And that year, no pressure on me whatsoever in 1992. I'm 23, young kid going over. Then I had 12 days in Barcelona on vacation because I finished. So what I got to do is go to the gold medal game. I got to meet Pete Sampras. I got to have coffee with some of the best athletes in the world and have these discussions on, and that's what was a cool thing, is I got to hear what made them click. And the similarities of, no matter what sport you're in at the highest level, it usually comes back to what I said at the beginning of the show: hard work, sacrifice, and then of course you're blessed with some talent, because bottom line is, to be an Olympian, you got to have something. But you got to have that work ethic and sacrifice. And that's what I think about. Like Barcelona, at that age, somebody picking me not to make it, and I made it.
Yeah, it's funny, to kind of piggyback on what you asked, Todd. I know when I was that age, 20, 21, I had an immature mindset. And that is a big stage that you were on. And I know you said 91, right?
92 was Barcelona, yeah. 91 as a senior in college.
Okay, well, 91, I was playing an NBA championship,
right,
with Chicago. And I don't know that you understand at least I didn't. I don't know that you understand what type of stage you're on when you're that young. And I applaud what you're saying, because it seems like you had that focus. I didn't have that focus. I mean, to answer your question, and this is not about me, this is about Todd, but I didn't have that type of focus. And I think if you have the maturity at a young age, I think it does so much for you when you're in the sporting world.
Yeah, and again, I didn't make all smart choices. I had my times of going on, what I say, you're trying to stay here focused on this line. Sometimes you're going out and doing what I'm not. But the thing is, I had to run 100 miles a week every week. I had to run twice a day, every day. Sundays once a day, longer run. So again, I was so focused on those blocks of training that I didn't let that. My friends are like, I'm not even calling Williams anymore, because he's not going out anyway, because he's got to run twice a day every day.
Right. But guys, I want to fast forward. You see these ears right here? Let's talk about this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I know you're a black belt. Started training in 2002. I started a year before you actually training. I'm a black belt as well. Talk about what that journey is. I've been trying to get my partner in there. We're both older grapplers, and I keep hearing about this half guard that you have.
Right.
But anyway,
I got you.
But talk about how's that been for you, the transition.
When I retired from, I started to slow down with my distance running in 2002. I'd put 50,000 miles on my legs, and the work wasn't adding up to the performance anymore. And I didn't want to be one of those old athletes that just hung on. So I kind of hung up the racing shoes in 2002. And honestly, my goal in 2002 when I retired was I was going to take 1 year, eat bad food, make bad choices, because I didn't get to do it. I'm like, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do, because I was so disciplined for so long. But then that lasted about a week, because I needed something in my life. So I was going to this in Knoxville, Tennessee, close to campus, still living there. I was just lifting weights, right? That was my fix. And there was a gym right in front of the gym that said, Gracie Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And it was a lunchtime, and I said, I watch UFC, the mixed martial arts, and I said, I want to go in there and just check it out. So my first professor was a professor, his name was Seneca, and I walk in there, nobody was doing it, right? Nobody was at the lunchtime class, it was just him sitting there.
Oh, wow, it's like a
And so he gives me, he goes, you want to try? And broken English, and Portuguese. And he gives me the gi, and we went through an hour class, and I was hooked. From that point until today. I hate missing jiu-jitsu. It's a great art.
It's a very addictive art, but can you explain what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is? I know to a lot of people who may be watching this, because we have all types of people watching it, I want you to explain it.
The way I explain it when somebody asks, what is jiu-jitsu, you know, because you get a lot of things. Is that karate? Is that taekwondo?
Oh my God.
Is that, and I respect all martial arts, right? Every martial arts has there are great martial arts out there. But what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, to me in a nutshell, explain it to someone that doesn't know. It's an art for the much smaller person to be able to take on or protect themselves against a much bigger person that's aggressive. And another way to explain it is, Jiu-Jitsu is not about fighting. It's not about being tough. It's about stopping the fight and getting out of that situation. Now, you can do competition with it. You can do a lot of great things with it. But at the end of the day, I've got 2 daughters, and they know enough Jiu-Jitsu. If some punk grabs them, they know enough technique to get the heck out of it.
And that's what it's really about. I think I always call it the art of intelligence, because Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for whatever reason, it attracts the intelligent kind of / nerdy guys, because it's human chess. It's done on the ground. Like I said, Todd, you and I have been having this is kind of a friendly rivalry. Our guys have been seeing each other in the finals. You know, we've been going to tournaments, and he and I always have a good time. When I see his guy on the side, I'm like, oh man, got one of those Monroe Jiu-Jitsu guys. You know, so it's kind of fun. And I want to talk now. You have a seminar coming up with a world champ coming 9-time. Lucas Lepre, and he's coming August
4th.
August 4th, guys. What a seminar is, it's a training where you guys can go learn from a top level guy. Like Todd teaches top level. You know what I mean? There's no doubt about it. You can tell just basically how his students, and that's how I judge things too. I always look, okay, how is the students? After the match, his guy's gonna come up, they're gonna shake my hand, so I'm like, he's on point, you know? So it's been a great thing, I know, for the community.
And you know what I say, like when Lucas Lepre, or you know, you have these top level world class jiu-jitsu guys come, or self-defense instructors, you know, when they come in a basketball, I always say I compare it to basketball. We're fortunate to be in a sport where we can shake hands, we can train and be right on the mat with the best guys in the world. It's a similar situation. Lucas Lepre would be like, let's say, you're going to do a one-on-one. Well, no, in today's in today's times, it would almost be like doing a one-on-one, or 10 people with LeBron James for 1 hour, doing a seminar, and he's teaching you how to jab step, or how to how to pin, whatever it is. But that's that's how good this guy that's coming to Monroe is in jiu-jitsu, right? It's one of the top 10 jiu-jitsu guys of all time is coming to Monroe to teach. And so it's open to wrestlers, it's open to any school. I'm just trying to bring good, positive people to Monroe and see what he can do. And again, take that mentality out of my hometown where, oh, no, everything's bad. No, it's not. We got a lot of good stuff happening in Monroe.
And it's funny because this guy here, I've heard of the sport, don't get me wrong, I've heard of the sport. But until he started actually doing the sport, I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. I don't even know if I can even say it. Say the word. Okay?
BJJ.
But BJJ. That's easier. That's easy. But it sounds like a great sport, and I always wondered, you know, you have your wrestling and you have your karate, and you kind of touched on it. You know, it's different from karate, but it seems like it's a toss between the two sports almost.
It's closer to wrestling because except there's a component of submissions. Like there's really no submissions in wrestling. But there is a stand-up part where you learn takedowns. But the science of it is really on the ground. And that's, like he said, his daughters. You know, I'm fortunate enough to have a woman that's like a Pan Am silver medalist, just made her a black belt, 10 years training. So, you know, it's really good. So whenever we do self-defense seminars, I think jiu-jitsu, they're the best seminars because I think we teach the reality.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when you think about jiu-jitsu, you think about you're walking down the street, somebody pushes you to the ground, and they're starting to punch you. They're full mount position, or they're trying to choke you. Or you think about, like, if I think about my daughters, they're on a college campus. Somebody pulls them off of a trail when they're walking to class, and they find themselves alone. They're going to have a better chance with jiu-jitsu technique, a much better chance with jiu-jitsu technique than they would if they weren't trained at all. And so that's the way in a nutshell. But then, like I said, there's so many things that come out of jiu-jitsu, like being comfortable in really uncomfortable spots. And how many times does that happen in real life? But the more you train jiu-jitsu, the more, if bad things come at you in life, with the experiences in jiu-jitsu training, it's kind of like,
So it just sort of instills like an all-around confidence.
Yeah.
And that's how he and I actually became friends. You know, through that.
Yeah.
You know, seeing each other at tournaments. He's a new guy here. You know, and like our friendship has blossomed from that.
Well, and that's one of the cool things about sports in general, just all the different types of people you get to meet, and just based on how often you see them, just the interactions and the relationships you make, you can't beat that.
That's a great thing.
Speaking of interactions, I mean, like I said, I feel fortunate enough to be able to sit between these two guys. I'm being real serious because I think you guys, to me, in my opinion, you guys are reluctant to have the spotlight. Like you guys you're normal guys. And that's what people don't understand. You know, you meet high-level guys. I think people think they're a certain way, but you meet Dennis on the street, you meet Todd on the street. Those guys are going to tell, hey, how you doing? Normal guys.
I think the biggest thing I ever learned, somebody told me, a top-level athlete said, you pass the same people on the way down as you do on the way up.
You're
so
right
treat
about
people
that.
right.
That's right.
If you guys have any questions, check out Todd's website. It's MonroeJiuJitsu.com, or you can message him on Facebook as well at Monroe Jiu-Jitsu. We'll see you guys next time.